Trimicon Peace and War Terms. This is another installment about the Nibiru and the planet Jupiter and how it's been misconstrued over the years about Planet X. Now they trying to say it's called Planet 9, and the truth of the matter is Jupiter and Nibiru is one and the same, and that the reason why they saying it's Planet 9 because Jupiter, as I told you in astrology, Jupiter is the ruler of the 9th house. So that's really what's really going on. And I put out this document in my noon group that I'm in, and it says Nibiru explained in this book I had since last year. See, this is 2015. So I had this ebook since 2014. So those people won't think that this is something new that I'm on about Jupiter. It's not. It's just that as my reasonability and awareness start to expand, some of the reasons start pointing out more of the orbs involvement versus the spirit beings, because a lot of times in noon we focus so much on the spirit that we keep forgetting that the spirits are originated and created by these orbs. And so as time went on, I started to realize and being communicated with these orbs of their positions. And so Jupiter is the king in the bottom half, and she is all in the information from the Bible interpretations all the way to the last nature book 3 book. And so from understanding that and seeing that is why y'all seeing me extract this information piece by piece out of the books under their guidance in order to show y'all things that these orbs originally are the Ennead of ancient times, and they are the ones who've been directing human beings' way of doing things down here. Alright, so here I said Nibiru explaining this ebook I had since last year. York lied because he fathered another liar, which is Zechariah Sitchin, whom his own peer said he bent the Sumerian text in his favor to sell books, and that's really what it was, because Zechariah Sitchin been on this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the study of antiquity and the Middle Ages. As always, I'm your host, Nick Barksdale, and today we are joined by a very special guest, Dr. Miano. Dr. Miano, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate being here.
Dr. Miano is actually the creator and founder and host of an awesome YouTube channel called World of Antiquity. I can't recommend it enough, and before we begin our series, I want to go ahead and encourage you. Check out the links in the video description below, subscribe to his channel, click the notification button, and definitely share as much as you can. It's an awesome channel, he's an awesome guy, and I cannot recommend his videos enough. And so now we're coming to a topic that I really do not know hardly anything about, and when he suggested this topic, I was really intrigued because I know it's popped up in a variety of online articles, but I just haven't really focused on it, so I'm really curious about this. So what is Nibiru, and why is it so popular?
Well, it's not popular in academia, except for maybe some specialists, you know. But Nibiru refers to something referred to in Mesopotamian astronomy, in an object in the sky, and Zechariah Sitchin, again, has made a lot of it, I think claiming that it was Lost Planet X, you know, something like that. But I'll tell you what the actual ancient Mesopotamian texts say about it, in a nutshell, if I can. It's also kind of complicated, but the word means something like, it has the idea of crossing, being some sort of crossing point or crossing marker. The great thing about a lot of the work that's been done in academia is that they'll, like the Chicago Assyrian Dictionary lists all the occurrences of a single word in all the ancient texts, and then you have all the references, right? So you can look up Nibiru, And we find that it's used in different contexts. Sometimes it just refers to something like a ferry or a place to cross a river. Nothing to do with astronomy, because it's a crossing, right? It means crossing. So it can refer to that. In actually only a minority of instances does it relate to an astronomical body. When it does, you will see the word sometimes marked with a sign for a god. They believed astronomical bodies were gods anyway. And sometimes you'll see it marked with the word mul, M-U-L, mul, which means basically a heavenly body. It could either be a star or a planet. It basically refers to something shining in the sky, except for the sun or moon. So a mul is anything up there that shines except for the sun and moon. And so it's marked with that. The context of where you see it in a work of literature or a document or whatever is the best indicator of what it could be. And in most cases, it appears to refer to the planet Jupiter. The Jupiter identification seems clear because Nibiru is equated with the god Marduk, and Marduk was identified with Jupiter. Also, Nibiru is said to be visible in the sky, and every year. And we know that during the time of the Mesopotamians, okay, there were only so many visible planets, okay? So this idea of it being a lost planet or whatever doesn't really go with the actual, the actual documents that we've got.
Our sentiment on this whole thing about aliens and religion and stuff, and the Sumerians and stuff, since the 70s, that was a big thing because that was the cycle, because religion was already dead. In order for religion to stay in the new age, to last as long as it has, the spirit forces had to now change people's mind to say, okay, well, what y'all thought was angels was really aliens and UFOs, and that was to give religion an extension of life. So now we at the end of all of that, and now what people thought was Planet X or Planet 9, and in fact half of it was half true, because Nibiru is a planet, but it's not a ship. As far as something mechanical or something made outside of being grown originally or organically by the suns and the universes. So here, this is the book right here called The Truth of Nibiru and the Anu People. Alright, so this is so we're gonna read, it's 9 pages, so we're gonna read some of it. Alright, so here it says it's by Neta Nib Aku Tipi, if I'm pronouncing that right. Alright, so Nibiru as a crossing. Alright, so I'm gonna just read it from 1 to 9. Alright, in the cuneiform tablet, Mul Appen tablet 1.2 line 38, it states Jupiter, Sag Migar, changes its position, continuously crossing the heavens. Now let's see what the word crossing means in the Assyrian dictionary in the University of Chicago. Alright, Assyrian dictionary definition: Nibiru, the other side, crossing. Nibiru, ferry, forward, crossing. According to the Pennsylvania Sumerian story, Nibiru is Akkadian. Alright? Pal, Gisal, Si, Ah. Alright? Pa Gisal, Si, Apad. Port, crossing, forward. Ak, Karu. Ferry boat. Now in Aramaic Hebrew, the word for crossing is abara. Hebrew definition, Hebrew dictionary 5679. Abara, forward, original word. Part of speech, noun feminine, transliteration abara, phonetic spelling ab-ara, abara, forward, abara, 5674a, to pass over through or bypass, crossover. See, this is closest to the word Abraham too, which means to cross over. Alright, Ibri, see, that's the foundation for the word Abraham. Ibri, Abra, Ibra, see. Hebrew, from beyond the Jordan, name of a people, regional beyond. From the Igbo language, Nibi Afu, meaning there. Yoruba, Agbibu, Agbibu, cross. The I can be an R. Yoruba, Orida, crossing. O Akkadian cuneiform, Adir, 4, crossing. Akkadian cuneiform, Nibiru, the other side, crossing. Akkadian cuneiform, Nibiru, 4, crossing. Hebrew, bar 4, Hebrew, a bar to pass over. Hebrew, Ibri, from beyond the Jordan. Hebrew, Ebra, region beyond. In this context, when the Sumerians observe and collect the data in the star catalog, they call any planet when they cross or move its position Nibiru, crossing like Mercury and Jupiter. When its orbits, the Sumerians call that to Nibiru. In the Enumerated List Tablet 5, the definition of Nibiru or Nibiru is fourfold. Nibiru is regarded as a planet, specifically Jupiter, but once as Mercury, a god, specifically Marduk, and a star distinguished from Jupiter. So if you do a lot of research, you will see that Marduk is connected to Jupiter, which is a planet. And Mr. York was using this term Marduk, but he didn't know anything about Jupiter being the real Nibiru, or the language that says this word is a title and it deals with that. But we're gonna deal with it specifically in that if York had any knowledge of that, his whole teaching would have been different. This is why when you go into the BIAE, the Bible interpretation, for those who got it, just go into there and type in Jupiter. Type in the word Marduk. Marduk is in the Bible interpretation. And if you go into the nine ball to the nature, Jupiter is the ruler of the bottom half. That's the king. She's a son. Just the same thing with Saturna. So if York was really in tune, he was being manipulated. He was teaching y'all that Marduk was just another name for some extraterrestrial that was on some ship somewhere, which is not true. Even when you start going into the ayahuasca, when they going down there, I think in Peru, when they want to do their spirituality and they take mushrooms and all this stuff, that ayahuasca, that they drink that, and the ayahuasca is said to take them to Jupiter. And they experience all types of spirituality. Some people have good experiences and other ones have negative ones. Look it up. Ayahuasca is in Peru. Alright? Once is Mercury, God, specifically Marduk, and they start distinguished from Jupiter. Note the Sumerians charted Jupiter and Mercury accurately. Jupiter actually does crosses or bypasses Mercury in astronomy, exactly how the Sumerian tablets depicted. The Sumerians observed nothing more than an astronomical crossing. The digital universe explains this as astronomical crossing of Jupiter, Sagmigar. Jupiter and Moon to share astronomical crossing. By Tim Song, January 18, 2013. NASA representatives told Utah residents to look on the east Monday, January 21st night and watch for the moon crosses the night sky. As the moon rises high in the south, it will cover up the planet Jupiter. The two bodies should be close together on Monday evening and shall move together throughout the night. Patrick Wiggins, NASA Solar System Ambassador to Utah, said Jupiter will be easily visible without a telescope, even from the areas with city lights. He advised those viewing from a rural area with a telescope to also watch for the cluster of stars known as the Seven Sisters, or Subaru in Japanese. The cluster will come across the sky just ahead of the moon and Jupiter. The planet Jupiter is seen in conjunction just above the waxing gibbous moon on Monday night, January 21st, 2013, from Tyler, Texas. AP photo. Events such as these are known as occultations, and lunar occultations happen frequently. According to the U.S. Naval Observatory 2013 Astronomical Almanac, the same event will happen when the moon covers Jupiter on February 18, less than 1 month later. BYU Professor Eric Hill said this type of event is popular for amateur viewing because a small telescope can make it spectacular, but lunar occultations do not generate much interest in the academic community. The better way to have it happen for research is for the planet to cross in front of a star, and then we can study the atmosphere of the planet, Hint said. When that happens in a lot of major observatories, at least historically, they will take all the telescopes on the mountain because there's research there. Before space programs were able to reach planets like Uranus and Neptune, the astronomy community could count on occultations to use what nature gave us. Hint said, and gather data such as atmospheric density using the light from a star behind the planet. Optical viewing of the moon at this time of year will be in the southern hemisphere, according to the U.S. Naval Observatory. Not only is the moon closer there, but temperature makes stargazing much more pleasant. National Weather Service predicts a clear night on Monday with lows around 22 degrees from Provo. The Sumerians was witnessing the astronomical crossing of Jupiter and Mercury. An astronomical crossing with Mercury is rare, thus I see why Mercury is called and Nibiru rarely in Sumerian tablets. Also, this astronomical crossing in astronomy is probably called and transit. This is the etymological dictionary of astronomy and astrophysics. Transit, French transit, an event where one astronomical object appears to move across the face of another as seen from Earth. The planets Venus and Mercury are seen to transit the sun. We can also observe natural satellites transit the face of their host planets. Similarly, exoplanets have been observed to transit their host stars. See also planetary transit method. The patches of heavenly body cross the meridian of a given location in Middle English from Latin transitus, transire, to go, crossover, from trans across, ire, to go. Gozar, passage, transit, passage from gozatin, to pass, cross, transit, variant, to put, to place, let, allow, to pass, let pass, apart from, apart, asunder. Nibiru as a Dingir god and the planet Mercury. Now, of course, the comparative grammar is there. Now we see that crossing means an ak or Akkadian cuneiform, Nibiru, in the Mode app, and Jupiter was also called Nibiru because it crossed the sky. Also, Marduk was called Nibiru. Tablets K.61749, and it says refer to it as Mercury. Mercury, Maludu, Idum, Gu for divides the sky and stand there. His name is Nibiru. K.12769. Mercury was called Nibiru, thus Nibiru is, according to ancient tablets, a title to give to a planet that crosses the Milky Way River, a ferry. A boat or ship for conveying passengers and goods, especially over a relatively short distance, and as a regulatively service verb, conveying a boat, especially across a short stretch of water, synonymous, ferry boat, raft. Nibiru is a star. In the meta, Ak, stars. And remember, Ak is spirit. The reason why Jupiter and Saturn is called that because they are gas planets. Spirit, gas, ether are the same thing. And this is why Jupiter and Saturn are called sun gods, or spirit god. Because see, sun god and noon is a spirit from the sun, or gas, right? So when you talking about the sun, noon calls the planet a god, whatever it is. So when we talking about the sun is not called a sun god. It is, but its true title would be God's son because it's a god, right? It could be called a sun god because it is a sun too. But when noon, to be specific, when noon says God's son, is talking about the sun itself. When it talks about sun god or sun goddess, is talking about the spirits that emanate from the mind of the orb. So the earth would be a god earth, right? or earth god or earth goddess would be the spirit or the energy, or let's say the feminine part of the planet, which is in the which is in his atmosphere. The masculine would be the earth part. This is why Gib is called a he in Kemet, right? Venus would be called a god planet because you're talking about the planet. Now, if you're talking about a spirit from Venus, then that would be what you would call, because Venus she got many titles, but it would be whatever the planet is and that spirit. So we'll say Venus is known for love, so we would say we would say a love spirit, right? Or a god love spirit or a goddess love spirit, because you're talking about love, and the opposite would be hate. So these is how you tell the difference in noon. So Saturna, and which is Saturn and Jupiter, are sons, so they will be called Akak. That's why I was telling y'all, when you look at the word Amenubi Ra'ak Ptah, the Ak, Ra'ak, Ra, son, spirit, Ak. Alright? Akkadian cuneiform, Kakabu, star. Igbo, Kappa Kap Andu, star. Hebrew, Kokab, star. Arabic, Kaukab, star. All this is Jupiter, because Jupiter is a sun, and so is Saturn. Alright, Nibiru is referred to as a Kakabu star of the term Mu in African Igbo language, matches with Mu, star in cuneiform. In the Ombra text, Nibiru is referred to as Asmo Nibiru, which explains this on the Truth of Nibiru in the African Order, the Anu DVD by Netta Nip Aku Zippy Tippy. Alright, so this is part one of this, and we'll get back on this later on. True mental college, peace and wartime.